Hi, my name's Steve Price. Welcome to my YouTube channel. I'm a football writer and reporter, and I specialize in football finance and global football, not just the Premier League, but leagues all around the world. The smaller, the more interesting and unique stories, the better. I've written for The Guardian, appeared on the BBC, and I write regularly for Forbes, and that's where today's story is going to come from. This is one of my articles I wrote back in January. We're talking about the CIES report, which tells us about the most valuable soccer players or football players in the world. For those who don't know, CIES is the Football Observatory. It's based in Switzerland. Maybe that sounds a bit like a kind of James Bond kind of thing on the top of a mountain. It's probably just some boring office somewhere. But they produce a report every 6 months telling us who are the most valuable football players. It's a bit more accurate than maybe you'd find on Transfermarkt, for example, which is just done by whoever's on the website or that kind of thing. This is done by actual experts who've evaluated the prices based on several different criteria. They not only look at the player's ability, but also their age, the length of their contract, the league they play in, and the club they play in. For example, if you play for Manchester City, they can afford to sell you for a lot more money than perhaps a club who are struggling for money and kind of need to make the sale to keep their finances going. So these things all factor into players' values. And now the interesting thing about the CIES report for January is that now 51 players have a value of over $100 million. Now, at the time, that was about 91.2 million euros at the time of the report. And I turned that into dollars for my article for Forbes. So you can see there's quite a lot of players. I don't know who's going to be buying all these players for that much. But that was the kind of headline news. Top of that was Jude Bellingham. He's now starting 2024 as the world's most valuable player. The Real Madrid midfielder. It probably doesn't surprise you that he's got this ranking if you've seen him play recently. Of course, he plays for Real Madrid, so that's going to add to his value. He's got a long contract there, and he's a very young player as well as being extremely talented. He'll probably be the England captain one day. So he's the world's most valuable player now. But these rankings can change quite a lot. It wasn't that long ago that Marcus Rashford and of course, Greenwood as well from Manchester United were at the top of these rankings. They've completely fallen away. You can imagine why Mason Greenwood has fallen away, but Rashford also has he's not been on form. Man United have not been on form, and as he's getting older and his contract is also getting closer to its expiration date, he's really dropped down the rankings. Okay, now let's look into that list in a little bit more detail. So, as we know, Bellingham is top of that list after his move from Borussia Dortmund to Real Madrid has really boosted his value over the last 6 months or so. There's actually, though, the list is actually dominated by the Premier League. More than half of the players on the list are from the Premier League. And out of those, Arsenal have the most players on the list with seven. So they've got the most. I wouldn't say they're dominating, though. The domination's been by Real Madrid and by Manchester City. Both of those had six players on the list of the top 100 most valuable players. And they both had three players in the top 10, including Real Madrid's Vinicius Junior and Rodrigo, who are ranked third and fourth. And Manchester City's Erling Haaland, who was ranked second on the list, probably no surprise that Haaland is the second most valuable player in the world. If you've been watching him recently, Phil Foden and Julian Alvarez also made the top 10 for Manchester City. The fifth most expensive player on the CIES list was Arsenal's Bukayo Saka, who's also up in the top five. So that top five is actually made up of the same players as last summer's list. So there hasn't been really as huge movements as there has been recently, but over the last 6 months, Bellingham moved up because of his transfer, and Saka fell down from third on the list to fifth. And as I said, this list is affected by players' age, players' contract length, these sort of things, and the club that they play for. So you've seen Kylian Mbappe, he was valued at the top about a year or so ago. He's seen his value kind of fall as his contract has been kind of being run down. So he's kind of dropped down the list, and he's actually now approaching the end, and it looks like he's going to move to Real Madrid, which again would boost him up. He's actually the 27th most valuable player or most expensive player on this list, and the most expensive in Lyon. So I think that's a little bit due to also France's league being a bit less valuable in terms of how much they can kind of get players sold for. But yeah, he's only 27th, even though he was the top. But I reckon he'll be in the top three at least most valuable players according to CIES once he makes that move to Real Madrid, or if he signs a kind of a long-term deal at Paris Saint-Germain. So Kylian Mbappe is the most valuable player in Ligue 1, but he's actually not the most valuable player at PSG, or at least on PSG's books. That belongs to the Dutch midfielder Xavi Simons, who's currently on loan at RB Leipzig, and he's been impressing there. You can see Chelsea have been giving all these long contracts. So based on how this list is made, you'd expect them to have quite a few players, but that's not actually the case. They've actually only got two players who are valued at more than $100 million. That's Enzo Fernandez and Cole Palmer, who of course has been on spectacular form in the Premier League, and he looks like he's going to be in that England squad as well soon on a regular basis. Newcastle United also have two players in the $100 million club. That's Bruno Guimaraes and Alexander Isak. Liverpool have four players who are worth more than $100 million. Manchester United have three, including Garnacho. And in the whole of La Liga, there's only 13 players who are valued at over $100 million. So you can see the dominance of the Premier League there. Out of that 51, only 13 are from La Liga. That includes Real Sociedad's Takefusa Kubo, who is the most valuable player from Asia. And looking at the rest of the players who are valued at $100 million or more, there's five from the Bundesliga, including Harry Kane. Despite his age, he's still that good and worth that much. There's only four from Serie A, and there's only two who are outside of those big four leagues. One of them is Mbappe, and the other is Portuguese side Benfica's Antonio Silva. So those are the world's most valuable players as of January. Who's going to be the most valuable in June? I guess we'll find out then. If you want me to let you know, please like and subscribe, and be one of my first likers, I guess, or subscribers, and find out some more content from me. As this channel goes on, once I get to around 50 subscribers, I'm going to be trying to interview some other football experts in the game, coaches, kind of executives and people who know all about that. If you've read any of my Forbes articles, which the link is down below, you'll see plenty of my interviews in the past with these sort of experts, people like FIFA executives, people who work at Premier League clubs, players, ex-players, these kind of things. Please give all of those a read if you want, and follow me on here on YouTube to hear more of these kind of interesting stories from football finance and just the football world in general, the kind of stories that maybe you won't hear elsewhere. Thanks for watching, and hopefully I'll see you next time.